There you are.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was just talking all about you.
I was watching that. That's awesome.
Well, I was just saying how much I love this book. I held it up, not that you need me to hold it up, because Lord have mercy, have you been all over the place with this book, talking to so many interesting people. So congratulations, first of all.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to get to talk to you today. I've been looking forward to it since I woke up.
Since you woke up, whoa, I've been looking forward to it for days. As soon as I found out that you were going to do this, I was like, I'm going to immerse myself in this woman's life, in her history. And so normally, you would talk to you on a tour for an album, you'd be out recording. You've been on a book tour, which is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
What's that been like for you? And number one, this book debuted #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. That is an achievement, let me tell you.
Thank you so much. That was something I was a little bit blown away by, but I was definitely obsessed with making the list. I wanted to be on the list. I felt like it was going to be like a high school diploma or something for me.
Yeah.
But the book tour has been so enlightening. It's like, you're probably experiencing this too, just because you're such a good conversationalist and interviewer, that like, you think that you're gonna talk and say things and talk to someone else, but you just find yourself learning so much,
Yeah.
So I got to learn from some of the most intelligent and iconic and soulful people, in the public eye today. It was just hearing some of that stuff Alicia had to say, and Dolly, and Tara Westover. It was a huge learning experience for me. I feel like I went to college.
Yeah, I think it was an incredible group of people that you assembled to interview you on this tour. You mentioned Tara Westover, and you said that you really wanted to write this memoir after you read Educated, and that you hounded her because she didn't want to take your call, and she was really difficult to get in touch with. What was it about reading her book that made you think, aha, I want to write my own?
That's such a good question, because it's not like, we didn't have the same childhood. There were definite parallels.
Uh-huh.
But after the Grammys, here's what happened. After the Grammys, I went over to visit with Ellen DeGeneres, which, because you've read my book, that's was a dream of mine in and of itself, because in 1997, I came out of the closet after her coming out episode. So I'm having this huge moment with Ellen DeGeneres that I've been wanting to have, my whole life. And we got to talking about something, and I don't know how this came up, and this is not a funny subject, but Ruby Ridge, the Randy Weaver story came up. And I remembered saying in passing, man, my dad talked about that story so much and in such vivid detail that when I think back on it, I almost picture that it happened to us.
Wow.
And Ellen jumped up on her feet and she was like, you have got to read Educated. This girl, Tara Westover, thought that Ruby Ridge had happened to them.
Right.
And there's a whole generation of people, of a kind of person that was really, I think, swept up in that story. And we grew up we're the same age. Our dads were the same age, same kind of like West Coast sort of survivalist upbringing in some ways. And so I went and got educated because I was intrigued as to why somebody would have such a similar and strange experience. And I found out that there were other parallels, but the most defining parallel was that she was deprived of an education and she wound up with a world-class education. And I love that overcoming of odds, of coming through poverty and trauma to achieve a really great and rare thing. And made me want to write.
And did you think when you read that you had a story that was similar, that could speak to a similar group of people, that could say some of the similar things?
Yeah. And I thought that a queer take on it would be interesting, and that there might be some LGBTQ plus people that would benefit from me telling a story from a queer perspective, a queer rural perspective, really specifically.
Because you said that didn't exist for you. There wasn't anything like this for you, that you had to kind of make up your own way as you went along, and that from a very early age, what struck me about the book and what strikes me about you is that you feel to me that from a very early age you were brave, really brave, and that you just kind of didn't really know what you were doing, but you knew you wanted to do what you were doing. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, brave and precocious, brave and negligent, you know.
Brave comes with a lot of stuff, but primarily brave.
Yeah, and I think that's probably true about me. I could accept that compliment, and I have just always been slightly audacious, I guess.
Yeah.
It hasn't always served me, but in my adult life, it seems to have served me more because I've got a handle on the hard parts of that.
Yeah, so, several comments here. I said that your book has been incredibly healing for them. People saying that it's been healing. People saying, I'm reading the book right now. Yes, she is and was brave. When you hear someone say that the book has been healing for them, what does that mean to you?
It means everything, and I get it. You know, it means
Yeah.
everything, and I get it. And I know it would have been healing for me too. And there were things, they weren't books, but there were things that were healing for me. And I don't know where I'd be without them. A lot of it is been music, you know?
Yeah. And this audiobook that's just come out now, you're not only, as I was saying, reading the audiobook, which in and of itself, having read an audiobook myself, it doesn't sound like it's challenging, but it's kind of a weird experience in a way. But then you're singing at the end of the chapter. So like, where'd you get that idea? You just wanted to have like a concert in the book.
Well, first of all, how was it for you? Because I'm curious reading the audiobook.
Well, it was just kind of odd, you know, it was kind of, you go into this little booth, right? For those who haven't, and you're kind of reading your own words and you're reading your own life. And it's just kind of weird to be kind of in the other person reading. So it was kind of, it felt to me like, gosh, you know, when I came out of reading my book, I was like, I don't think this is any good. I don't think anybody's going to like this book. I don't really know why I wrote this book.
I totally get it.
Oh my God, why did I do this?
Did you ever get emotional while you were reading it?
Oh yeah, I got emotional. And then I always have so much empathy for someone when they write a book, because it's scary, right? You're really putting yourself out there. People don't realize that, I think, to a degree. You're feeling, I don't know about you, but did you feel like kind of before it came out, you're like, what did I do? Is anybody going to like this at all?
Yeah. And also, are people going to get their feelings hurt?
Yeah.
Are people going to understand my sense of humor? You know, there were things where in my book where I realized, like, I get what I'm saying, but other people might not get what I'm saying. You know, like the way I talked about T-Bone, you know, like I have all this affection, but did I relay that enough with the criticism? And, you know, like there's a moment where I call a part of my family, the dolls, I call them crazy ass jockeys, you know, because they're jockeys and they're crazy. And I mean it affectionately, but like, what if they read that and they don't want to be called crazy ass jockeys, you know? So all these things did start to, like, I couldn't sleep. I would be texting people at 3 a.m. what I'd written in the book, just in case it might offend them. Like, it was bad, but I couldn't go back and change any of it. And, I've definitely had some issues, and but it's worth it, because you have to own the things that happen to you. You have to own your stories. And it does feel a little bit like there's a fine line between having to own your story and the things that happen to you, even if it involved other people, but realizing that your microphone's on.
That's such a big deal, right? Owning your story and then the other people in it, right?
Yeah.
How you know, your interpretation, your narrative, and then the people who are in and out of your narrative. How do you, how are you loyal to them? Or are you loyal to yourself? Do you betray them? Do you betray yourself? And how do you walk that line?
Yes.
Telling your own story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do you keep some of it to yourself? Because you don't, like Maya Angelou always said, you don't have to tell the whole story. You can keep some of it. But what do you tell so that you get enough of a sense that you can heal people, that you can get your truth out there? Did you kind of go through that, like, this part I don't want to tell, this part I want to keep for myself? Or
Well, you know, actually who helped me out with that a lot was Glennon Doyle.
Yeah.
So first of all, I had just read Untamed, so I knew not to betray myself, no matter what. But then we actually talked on the phone, and she gave me this analogy about like my microphone's on, and someone else's microphone isn't on. And so it's fine to say that there's two sides of every story, but what if only one person has the power to tell their side of the story, And you have to be really careful. I think I had to be really careful about that. And I feel really good about it and really proud about the stuff I kept for myself and the ways that I owned my story, in hopes that it would help other people
That's
with
beautiful.
yeah.
I love that, what you kept for yourself. Now, how is writing, how do you tell a story differently in the written word versus in the songs? Because in your songs, you're also telling stories. You also have a microphone, literally, right?
Yeah.
And you're also writing about things that are important and that are your story. So what could you do in the book that you can't do in your music?
You have such good questions.
I had to watch all your other interviews so I don't repeat everything you've been doing.
Well, they're so good. I think that the thing about that you can do in songs that you can't do in books is hide behind metaphor.
Yeah.
And other writers, like in songs, like I'll work with the twins.
Yeah, the twins.
And nobody has to know what part of a song I wrote or what somebody else wrote. So if a person is seeing themselves in my song, say a person I know, and they're kind of like wondering, maybe I'll be like, oh, Tim wrote that part,
Yeah.
You can't do that in a book. And you also can't hide behind metaphor and analogy. And there's a certain amount of just coming out into the light and being literal that's super terrifying. As you know.
And that's important to know, that even somebody, who's been as successful as you, even though I've read that you think you have imposter syndrome, or that you do have imposter syndrome, that you can still be terrified even though you're successful.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know about the word. I mean, I've used the words imposter syndrome before, and I think that it's a broad brush way of describing some of just the residual trauma of LGBTQ plus youth, and how that's always with you, and you're kind of always ready to be rejected, turned away from institutions and friend groups, certainly from things like charts or commercial viability, like those kinds of things. You feel like it's a fluke. A lot of queer people feel like it's a fluke if that ever happened to us. Wow. And so something like telling your truth in a book definitely feels like, okay, this is going to be the thing. This is going to be the thing that gets me disinvited. And am I okay with that? Am I not okay with that? And then I decided I was okay with it, and it's not what happened.
Yeah. What happened? Has it been the opposite of what happened?
Yeah, it's been the opposite of what happened. This unique experience I thought that I had has turned out to be not unique at all. And that's made me feel really, well, it's how I always want to feel, which is surrounded by people and experience, and, not necessarily common experience, but at least a common direction.
What is that you just said? Like, I read somewhere that you don't want to be alone, right? That if you're in the center, you're alone, and that you want to be surrounded. What is it about being alone? Because you, in a way, stand on the stage seemingly alone, right? You sing sometimes. I know you have the twins, and I know that, but you are Brandi Carlile alone there. Mm-hmm. But what is it about being alone?
I'm always afraid it makes me sound so unevolved, because like, I know you're supposed to be okay with being alone. Like I know that's the hallmark of an evolved person, and I'm not okay with it. And I guess I'm just admitting that it's like where I'm at right now. Like, if my wife has to go away for a night or go to London or something like that, I'm on the phone calling people to come and stay with me so fast. Like, I've never been single. I don't live alone. I don't take a long drive alone. I had to take a drive last week up to my boat up north, and I got 20 minutes out down the road, and I called up one of the twins, and I was like, will you just come drive with me out to the boat, I just don't like being alone. I don't know what it is, buddy. I haven't figured it out yet. What do you think it is?
I don't know, because I used to be like that,
Mm.
and very much so. And now I'm alone, and I had to get comfortable being alone. I mean, I have kids and friends and stuff, but I'm single and I live alone for the first time in my life. And learning to be alone and being okay with being alone has been a journey.
Really?
And so I think that there are some people who are monastic in a way, and who love being alone. And I think there's a difference between being okay being alone and then being lonely, but enjoying your own company, but also enjoying the company of others.
Yeah.
And so I'm like that. I get in the car and I call one of my brothers, or I call my cousin or something like that. But I think it's a journey to understand your own company. And
do you think it's do you think it's imperative that I learn how to do it?
well, you're so young, so not now. But
Okay.
at some point, as you get older, you know, it's part of getting older in many ways, because people move, people die, kids move out, and that's a good sign that they're independent, that they want to have their own life. They come back, but you have to be okay being alone.
Right.
And
I'm not yet.
You're not, but you have plenty of time. So you have plenty of time, and I'll be here to help you. So.
Okay, I'll reach out to you. I'll be like, do you remember we were having that conversation? I guess it's like, it's the worst, because I guess it feels to me like, okay, I'm realizing this as we're talking about it, like I can't enjoy anything. Like, you know,
That's not true.
A movie will come on and I'll be laughing at a joke, and I can't get past what a shame it is that no one else saw it with me, you know? Or I'll be like,
call somebody and say,
oh, it's purple gin. Like, nobody else can see the purple gin but me, you know? It's like the worst thing.
Well, I can see it, and you look like you're having a good time, and so I'm enjoying your company, even though I'm alone here.
Yeah,
so I think being alone can be, I woke up the other day and I was like, wow, I'm actually okay being alone. That's kind of like, wow, I'm surprised at that. I grew up in a big family, you know, always kind of like, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And then I move along. So I think it's just one of life's lessons, right? But you don't have to learn it quite yet. I want to talk to you about motherhood, because I watched the great video you put up on your Instagram yesterday, and I read what you wrote underneath of it, and about learning, finding your place in motherhood. And I think this is important, because motherhood's around the corner, and people have complicated relationships with motherhood, with being a mother, with their kids. And, you know, I thought the way you wrote about it was so interesting to me, because you wrote about it from a same-sex point of view, and saying that you wanted to be the mother, and you found yourself being relegated to the supporting role, or the role reserved for the father. Can you talk a little bit about what you've learned about motherhood and the unique challenges of being in a same-sex relationship and being the mother?
Yeah, and it's as diverse as any other kind of parenting. I find out, you know, it's so weird. My wife and I were just really talking about this extensively today, about like maybe writing a book about it together or something, because our experiences were so different, you know, and we're kind of similar people in a lot of ways. So that speaks to a lot to the mechanics of how we came to be mothers. And I found it really untethered and wildly confusing how to enter into that role. And a lot of it is that, like, I think I've heard a lot of buzzwords like mirroring and representation and those kinds of things, like growing up, but I don't think I realized how, not since I came out of the closet actually, how influenced by representation and mirroring I really am. You know, I'm going to make a connection that's going to seem far apart here, but it isn't in my mind. Like, when I came out of the closet, when I realized I was attracted exclusively to women, I was so young. And a lot of times, to realize something, especially in a small town where there are no other gay people, I'd never met a gay person. I didn't have a girlfriend or even a girl I had a crush on that wasn't, like, I say, on TV or a celebrity. I would imagine myself being that person's partner. hand holding, hugging, kissing, those kinds of things. And I could never see myself because I just had never seen that as possible between two women. I didn't have the actual visual and psychological mirroring to imagine a scenario in which I had never seen in the movies, on television, in advertising, in books.
Yeah.
And I worked through it as a kid because you get older and you do get girlfriends, and then people come out of the closet on TV like Ellen DeGeneres, and you get your head around it. You know, you see a kiss and you're like, oh, that's what that looks like.
Right. Right.
Cut to, I'm 30 at the time, close to 30, and I realized I hadn't seen same-sex people parent. And so I didn't understand what mother looked like if I wasn't pregnant. And there was grief involved.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough. Yeah. And it wasn't so much about playing the support role as much as it was maybe about being misgendered. And I'm still unraveling it as I get older and as I watch other couples, younger couples have kids and come to the table with these kinds of discussions about how damaging it's been for our generation to not see LGBTQIA plus domesticity, because we don't have the imaging, we don't have the representation.
But now that you have representation in your own mind, you see it in your own life. You are it. You are it.
Yeah.
Did it only kind of come together when you wrote that song, or could you only write that song when you gave yourself a name, you named it?
Well, I write songs like I'm giving myself stitches. I'm healing up voids. And I wrote that song to fix the problem. I didn't write it because the problem was fixed. Even, by the way, I Forgive You, you know, the album, like, I didn't write the song because I'd learned forgiveness. I wrote the album because I needed to. Yeah. And that mantra of I am the mother of Evangeline, I didn't believe it yet when I wrote it.
You didn't believe it when you wrote it?
No.
How'd you write it then?
Well, I knew I needed to, you know? And sometimes, like I said, like writing songs is like giving myself sutures. Like I fixed it by writing the song. And then also it's a mantra. You repeat it every night, get vulnerable, get emotionally naked, and sing this to audiences of people that may or may not accept you. It's interesting. My shows, I was wildly embraced for that song and accepted over and over and over again. But I did some gigs where I was booed. I did some gigs where people walked out.
When you sang that song?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they were my gigs. They were festivals or opening slots, you know, on questionable scenarios. But yeah, it was a polarizing. The song wasn't as polarizing as kind of my intro to it.
What was your intro to it that was polarizing?
Well, we just talked about me just saying that. Yeah, that it was hard for me to understand who I was in this person's life. And that when I understood it, it was, you know, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. But the song really was a part of helping me understand it. Also, Evangeline was also a part of helping me understand it. Because
how many times did you have to sing it to believe it?
Maybe just once, you know, to her, like to singing it to Evangeline.
The video is so beautiful to me because you're singing along there, and it's up on Brandi's page. I put it up on mine as well. But at a certain point in there, your daughter moves in to you and kind of, you know, comes in like a little closer and kind of grabs your arm. It's like, it's such a, like, yeah, that's my mama. That's my mama. And that to me made me almost cry. It was less the words, but it was the emotion. And it was also the kind of standing in that identity, to me, is what the song is about. That's who I am. Owning that, right? That's who I am. And all the complexities that come with motherhood and mothering young girls is complicated unto itself, right?
She gets it. She gets it on a level that I didn't explain to her. And like that stuff that she does in that video, there's actually kind of two scenarios of that song where she does that. And sometimes if she's watching the show, she'll run out on stage and do it too. And she has never once been asked or told to do that. And if she ever was, it's the opposite of what she'd do. Because she's so what's the word you use, Kath? Contrary. Catherine says oppositional defiance. No, but she would never do that. Contrary, my wife says. She would never do that if she were asked to.
Yeah.
She's just bigger than us in some way. She's kind of like our teacher. We don't understand where she came from and why she's like that, but she gets it. And she teaches us every day about parenting and same-sex parenting. And she's pretty, as far from what I can see, she's straight as an arrow.
When Mother's Day comes up to you now, what is it that you feel on that day? What does that day mean to you? How do you and your wife, Catherine, how do you talk about it?
I think we're still in a position where, if I'm really honest, we probably still just rush to cater to our own mothers on Mother's Day, and we don't even think of ourselves in that way.
Yeah.
It's not until other people wish us Happy Mother's Day that we think, oh yeah, wait, it's just about us too, because we're just busy. We got, 2 kids under 7, and we know we're mothers, but we don't really ever stop to congratulate each other about that, although we probably should, Kath.
Yeah, for sure you should.
Yeah.
For sure you should, because it is, that's the thing, is most women don't. They're rushing. They don't stop to acknowledge, to think about it until they're alone way down and they're looking back. But it's such an extraordinary honor and experience, right? Were you scared to become a mother? Were you scared?
The thing I was scared of is I'm not that great with babies. And I'm not really sure I'm even really into babies. And I don't know how to hold them properly. They always cry. It's like, they're always messy and like spitting up. And to me, it's the worst. I can't do it. I just can't do it. But like, I'm really good with kids and toddlers. And I even love teenagers. God, I love that awkward phase between adolescence and adulthood. But my wife is great with babies. And so that really actually, it fed the insecurities I had around my maternal abilities. Yeah. How about you? Are you way into babies, or are you kind of like me? Like,
Well, it's funny because I was just writing an essay about it, and I was scared to have children. I was really into my career at the time, and I was like, I didn't have, speaking of Miriam, I didn't have examples of women who were in the network news who had babies and who were working. So there was no model for me. So I didn't know how that would work.
Sure.
I didn't see an example of that, right? And so I was like, I don't know how that's going to work, and I really love my job. And will I be good? Or maybe I'll drop the baby. I don't know. And
I did drop him.
And then when I had my first child, it was like, and I remember going on to my maternity leave, and I was like, I'll be back next week. Don't worry. I'll just be back next week. Don't worry about anything. And how my whole world shifted, and it shifted with each child, and how each child taught me something completely different, and what a waste of worry time and anxiety that was for me to worry about not being good at something like that. That if we can slow down enough, and that there's so many ways to mother, right? That there is so many ways to show up. And I'm now a grandmother. I have and so I'm now learning. I'm watching my own daughter mother, and I'm learning to.
What's that like?
That's a trip. Wow, it's a trip. It's and then to be like, it's not your child, and so you're on the side, but you've done pretty good with your own kids, so you kind of know, but you can't really say. And so it's once again, it's an ongoing lesson in being needed, but stepping aside and allowing somebody to do their thing and coming in when you're asked. And so that's the thing about life, right? That you're constantly learning, and it's evolving and challenging you and putting you alone and asking you to show up, but telling you to leave, and all of the different, and telling you you've done a good job if you're left alone, and telling, all of, and holding the paradox. And so I think, but that's a whole other discussion. But
no,
I thought that what you wrote was so interesting that you could hold the joy of motherhood and the grief, holding these two conflicting feelings. I always say is a thing about life, right?
Yeah.
The grief of like, I'm feeling grief because I don't know what that is, but I know I'm supposed to be happy, and I know there's my child there, but where am I, and how do I fit in, and what is that example? I think it would be great to write a book. Now that you're like on the book thing, you're going to be like an author and an author and an author.
Oh yeah, I will write again. I love it. Do you think that it's something that you're always going to do?
Yeah, I write every week. I have this Sunday paper. We're going to put this up in our Sunday paper. So I'm constantly writing. And for me, I write every day, and I have to write. It's almost like if I don't write, it doesn't come, my mind would torment me. So it's in a way.
So you write stitches into yourself too.
There you go. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I write clarity into myself. I write peace into myself. So whatever, and I do believe that we're all here to write our stories. You know, it was beautiful to watch you sing with Courtney Cox, watch you sing with Tara Westover. You know, that's something I've always looked at. Something I was like, wow, I wish I could sing, but I can write, or I write poetry. I write a lot of poetry. And so I think they're all kind of expressions of our thoughts and our emotions.
I'd love to read your poetry sometime.
Okay, well, if you want, next time you come to LA, when I meet you,
yeah,
I'll read you some of my poetry. Some of it's pretty dark.
Oh, that's great. I mean, dark poetry.
I have a feeling you'd like that.
Hello, Leonard Cohen. I mean, yeah.
Amen.
I'm going to send you my phone number, and you can send it to me, because I would love to read what you've written in terms of, yeah, that would be really amazing.
I love Leonard Cohen, and I believe that the cracks are really how the light gets through, right? And I always believe the cracks in all of us, and I think that's what's so beautiful about your book, Brandi, is that you could have let some of the things be cracks, and you could have bowed down to them, and yet the light got through, and you stood up and owned them, and that you show them and you use them as a light for others. And I always believe that that's why we're here, no matter our age. You say in the book, when you saw the little girl singing, oh, I don't have to wait to sing. And you don't have to wait to write a memoir. You don't have to wait.
Yeah. You know, some people I really, really respect were like, don't do that. You're too young, you know, like, but I'm used to being told that I'm precocious. I'm used to being told that, you know, I'm
contrary.
Yeah, that I'm contrary, like Evangeline, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you know, and even people that I really respect, I kind of like, I just sort of set that aside, and I thought, yeah, I'm young to write a memoir. I'm only 40. And I may change my mind about all this, but then I'll just write another one. Like, I'm okay with a changed mind. And also, there is something a little bit dauntingly accountable about writing a memoir while everyone that you talk about is still alive.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really bullshit your way through it when that's the case. Yeah.
But the great thing of the lesson of this is that you think you're going to be disinvited when you put it out, and the opposite happens. So I think that's a great message to people.
Yeah.
And our fears about the future, about what if I do this, what if I say that, they're usually fears that we have conjured up, and that are always, by and large, way worse than whatever the reality is that actually is the reality.
It's true. And I say this in the end of the book too, is that like everyone is interesting. Everyone has had a fascinating life. And even if you don't think so, if you sit down and you start to mine it, you'll realize that, yeah, that the road that's led you to where you are is crumbling and not continuous and fascinating and diverse. And that like people really should sit down, I think, at some point in their lives and mine it, you know, maybe even every 5 years or so, like the Indigo Girls would say. But people don't think they're fascinating. It's weird. I don't think I thought I was fascinating either until I sat down with some intention.
I think that's the key. You have to sit down and mine it, and mining takes time, and mining can be painful.
Mm-hmm.
And mining requires you to look back, and it might require you to feel feelings that you're not comfortable with, but mining will always lead you to freedom.
Yeah, it's true. And there's also a lot of humor in it. You know, I always found myself really appalled and interested in the things I was like laughing out loud at while I was doing this, like really sick stuff, you know, and just kind of like understanding more about my sense of humor. Like, why do I think it's funny that my mom thought my dad was a serial killer? I don't know. I just do. You know, it's like
Your guys, yeah, you said it's kind of like Captain Fantastic a little bit. You're like growing up right in there. It's
yeah.
like out there unto itself. Well, I don't want to keep you because I know you're there with your family. I'm really glad that we had this chance. I'm glad that I could join in on your book tour to congratulate you, to have this conversation about life and music and writing and mining and mining. And I want to thank you for taking this time to be with us today on a Tuesday before Mother's Day.
Thank you. I've enjoyed talking to you so much, and I will work on the being alone thing. And I only ask that we don't make this be the last time that we continue to correspond and hang out. I want to read your poetry, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandi. That's so sweet of you. God bless you, and congratulations again. The book is called Broken Horses, and the intro explains where that title came from, which I thought was so beautiful. Evangeline, you should name your book Broken Horses. I love that because I was wondering, what does that title come from? And there it is, right in the front page. So thank you. If you haven't read the book, please go get it. You go drink your drink, enjoy your company. Don't be alone. Just have a great time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And we're going to put this up in the Sunday paper. We're going to put, ooh, look at those trees. Look at that. We're still seeing her. I don't know. Looks, there you go. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. A great conversation with Brandi Carlile. The book is called Broken Horses. We're going to put this up in the Sunday paper tomorrow in the midweek edition. So if you don't get the Sunday paper, I hope you'll sign up for it. And maybe we'll even repeat it on Sunday because a lot of good stuff in there about motherhood and about the fears we all have about being good mothers. And so if you find yourself out there and you're mothering or have mothered or wondering about it, the world needs good mothers and you'll be a good mother. So don't worry. That's it. Broken Horses. Have a good day. I'm Maria Shriver. Thanks so much for joining us.